All right, fantastic. By show of thumbs up or thumbs down, can y'all see the all team meeting slide? Perfect, great. Well, welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. It is September 7th. Wanted to share the agenda with y'all quickly before we jump into things. So we'll kick it off with a client story. Zach is going to update us on strategy. Liz is going to talk about our scorecard update, our current progress in quarter 3. We have the build team to give us highlights by sites, and our executive directors at each site are going to do that. Then we'll have some program highlights. So recent wins and updates. JR and Reese are going to talk through the advise team updates, and Anya is going to speak with us about disaster response. We have a lot of new AmeriCorps members and new staff members, so we're going to highlight those team members, and we'll do some HR updates and reminders. And then my favorite part, the shout outs. So I would love to invite Shani Ellis Rodriguez from Puerto Rico, Client Service Coordinator, to walk us through a client story. Shani Ellis, it's all yours.
Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Happy Thursday. We're almost to Friday. I'm going to talk to you about Malta. She's my client. She's 71-year-old. She's a 71 person with a lot of life and a lot of jokes to share. I absolutely love talking to her. She's a lot of fun. She inherited this home from her mom. Actually, a fun fact, the balcony of the house, her mom actually built herself tooth and nail. So, like all of our clients, this home means so much to her. It means everything to her. And, so thank you to everybody who's, putting their hands on to rebuilding this home. When the devastation of Maria hit, Marta and her husband had to find refuge and shelter with her daughter as the storm passed. And when they came back, they had lost their whole roof and they lost everything. So that was really hard for them. And they had to put, metal panelings to have a roof over their head again. And, Fiona only made it worse. So when one of our VCs asked to coordinate a meet and greet with our volunteers, Magda called me and the first thing she said was, "I love my new roof." I was like, "Yes, Marta, you have a new roof." So that really impacted her. And she was like, "I can't wait until I get to see my house." And she was really excited for that. And she was really excited to meet all the volunteers. She loved everybody. And but like I said, she was very excited naturally because of the roof, and she couldn't contain herself, and she was really grateful. And the only thing she could really say was just wow. So once again, thank you, everybody.
Fantastic. What an awesome client story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, round of applause. Nice. Congrats. Very good. Well, thank you. All right. So next up, we are going to jump to Zach to give us a strategic plan update. Zach, all yours.
Thanks, Kyle. And it's awesome to be with everybody this Thursday afternoon. I hope that you're all safe and well. As many, if not all of you know, we have been working with Bridgespan for the past 6 months or so. They are the nonprofit consulting arm of a group called Bain that adds capacity and strategic planning to a host of companies. Bridgespan is really the industry best. They are honest, smart, thoughtful, provocative, no sacred cow groups that a host of us have worked with and learned a ton from. The purpose of and we're wrapping that up in the coming weeks. The purpose of the engagement with Bridgespan was to really put structure and some refinement behind our 5-year transformational strategic plan. As many of you know, we launched it about 1.5 years ago, and I'm thrilled to say we're on target. We're doing great. We have some big, hairy, audacious goals that fully represent our embrace of the mom rule. The goal behind the engagement was to really understand how to get there, understand where we want to go, but what decisions, what choices, what do we have to say no to, what do we have to say yes to, what do we have to triple down on. And I feel like the engagement with Bridgespan went awfully far in that direction. We learned some things, and I'll just give you a very brief overview right now. One of the things, we got real deep clarity. For a long time we've been doing these 5 interventions, but I think we didn't understand how they fed each other and how they're absolutely vital, interconnected, and together drive the flywheel. And so let me just walk through it a little bit. You can see it at the top of the slide here. We do some doing work, direct service work. That's where our roots are. That's where our heart is, right? Directly serving people, whether it's the OOR program, owner occupied work, whether it's the disaster assistance work. We're there with people, ensuring they have what they need to get home. We work on those 3 levers of the breaking point: time, predictability, and access to resources. And the doing work directly helps these people. And I think we do it as well as anybody. I'm awfully proud. That doing work. And so those who are doers out there, like direct client service work, let's give them a massive round of applause. You're immediately helping people. It's huge. In doing that doing work, and in doing it in ways that embrace the SBP ethos of like curiously connecting, we're understanding what's not working. We're seeing how the system is harming people. We're seeing the flaws. And so the doing work informs, it requires, and it drives scaled impact and system change work, because we have to care about the people, not just who are in our lines for the doing work. If we really care about people, we need to prevent them from needing our help and anyone's help in the first place. And so those lessons that we learn, how the system isn't working, what people really need, where the rubber meets the road, that's informing, driving, and requiring the scaled impact and system change work. So we can go down a little bit in that slide. The strategic plan had a whole bunch of big goals. Again, we're largely on track for all of them. However, we got to make some choices. And so we are seeing 3 programs as bigger bets. The rest of our work, nothing's shrinking. Everything is going to be doing a little bit more, but there are some steady state programs. And then there are transformational impact programs, again, that are informed by the doing work. The first one's the DAP program, kind of commonly known as SBP around FEMA appeals. The second one is the Fellows program that, to our fellows, you're on track to drive over $80 million to the communities that you're serving. That's something that has to be scaled and replicated. And then the RAFT program. So those we're learning are going to be, and we have framework on how to prioritize these bigger bets and the key drivers and what they need to actualize to make them come true. On or about September 21st, we're going to roll this out to the staff in the meeting. I think you're going to love it. And it was fun to give you that glimpse now. So we can pass on to Liz, who's going to walk us through how we're doing in 2023 towards our goals.
Thanks, Zach. And hi, everybody. My name is Liz McCartney. I'm the COO and one of the co-founders here at SBP. And for those of you I haven't met, welcome. We're thrilled to have you on board. And special shout out and thanks to all of our members like Margot and her crew who are listening from clients' houses. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day and likely very hot day to join us and to learn a little bit more about what's going on across the organization. And so what you all see in front of you now are our 2023 goals and the progress that we've made to date. For many of you, this is a familiar slide. And for some of you, you're looking at this for the first time. I really encourage you after this meeting, when Kyle sends out a recording of this and sends out this deck, to kind of dig in here and get to know what success looks like for SBP in 2023. If you have questions or curiosities, please feel free to reach out to me directly or the heads of any of these programs. I'm more than happy to kind of walk through how we're doing. But the good news is that overall we are on track. As you can see here, there are a lot of programs that are really doing a great job of hitting their targets. There are some instances where we're behind and we have plans to get back on track. And then one instance where we have a great success to celebrate. So I just want to take a moment to kind of walk through a couple of program highlights. You are going to hear from a few folks today that are going to go a little bit deeper. So I'm not going to cover everything on this slide, but I do want to call out a couple of things. First and foremost, the Prepare team. So just thank you. Right now, Tessa Barron is leading the charge because Helen Wiley is out on parental leave. She'll be back at the beginning of November. And just big thanks to Tessa. This is National Preparedness Month, and she has kicked off a campaign this week that the preparedness team designed specifically for all of us at SBP. And the purpose of this campaign is to increase our understanding of what preparedness means. And so there's going to be social media opportunities and posts, a course on mental health and disaster preparedness, and various engagements. And our hope is that through these various opportunities, we're all going to expand our knowledge and ultimately increase our individual levels of disaster preparedness. And it is really important for us as both doers and leaders in this space to candidly to walk the walk. Like, we all need to be knowledgeable and experts in individual preparedness so that we're ready to serve others and also help others get on board with what being well prepared looks like. So I just ask you to keep your eyes and ears peeled for emails from Tessa and more information about what's coming this month. So that's the first Prepare update. I have two other ones. One thing that we're really excited about is that next week, SBP is co-hosting a conference in Washington, D.C. with the Environmental Defense Fund and with the Center for Environmental Policy at American University. And the conference is called Climate Risk and Insurance. And it's going to focus on improving equity, enhancing resilience, and stabilizing markets. It's going to be a really interesting conference with a lot of folks from different sectors in attendance and speaking about ways to improve equity and disaster recovery, how to lower future losses, and how to stabilize kind of climate stressed insurance markets. Some of us live in climate stressed insurance markets, so we're hearing about this in the news or we're experiencing the pain points personally of increased insurance costs. So I just want to give a shout out to Helen Wiley again, who's the director of our preparedness programs at SBP, for helping to organize this really, what I think will be very special and engaging event.
That's around there. It's work.
Hey, thanks. And then just let you all know that there's quite a few folks from SBP that will also be speaking. Francis Bouchard, our board chair, Zach Rosenberg, our CEO, who you just heard from, Reese May, who's our Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer, and Kenneth Morgan, who's the ED of New Orleans, who you're going to hear from in just a minute. And then the last thing I want to highlight for preparedness is really just a thanks to Jennifer Beaver on the comms team. I think she's really done a remarkable job of designing a very effective digital marketing and outreach campaign to try to get preparedness and mitigation messaging in front of a very big audience. Our goal is 12 million. We're just at the halfway point now, and there's more to come. So just thank you, Jennifer. Really appreciate all of your support. So two other things I want to highlight. And one of them is what you're seeing on the slide that's in green that says achieved. This is a big deal, y'all. And I really want to say huge thanks to Reese May, who's our Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer, because what happened recently is this. The Senate passed the One App bill. And this is, the One App bill is the Disaster Assistance Simplification Act. Disaster assistance currently is not simple. It's really complex. In fact, we have a whole program designed to help survivors navigate one of the programs that are available to people after disaster, because it's so hard for many people to navigate and get sort of an optimal sized award that will make a dent in their recovery. But what's so great about this bill is that it passed the Senate at the end of last month with unanimous consent. And this is a really significant milestone for us at SBP, because through our doing work over the years, we've seen time and time again how a lot of the disaster programs are not meeting the needs of our clients and of people who live in communities that have impacted by disaster. And so the goal here is that the access points for people who are impacted by disasters and the language that's used to explain the programs and access to all of that is made a lot easier through the passage of this bill. So just huge thanks and shout out to Reese and team for this big win here. And then the last thing I want to highlight is that tucked within the build goal is information about SBP's Opportunity Housing Program. And for anyone who's new to SBP, Opportunity Housing is our affordable housing program. We create units for rent and we create units for sale. And I'd like to give Katie Malucci a big shout out. She's about to sell her 4th single family home in Houston this week. And she's made really great progress on the single family homes that the awesome construction team in New Orleans has been working on. So just great progress on the goal of selling 8 homes this year, Katie. And again, huge thanks to Tommy, Alyssa, all the project leads and everyone in New Orleans who's contributed to the success of the Opportunity Housing Program in New Orleans. And my last shout out, y'all, is to 2 other people on our team who are very quietly, but in a really beautiful way, supporting residents in our rental units. So we're going through a little bit of change in our rental units. We used to have an outside property management company, and now all of those services are going to be managed in-house by our Director of Property Management, Renette. And so thank you, Renette. Thank you, Ashley, so much for all the work that you've been doing over the years with all of our residents. I know, and I'm very excited that under or with your leadership, the experience of living in our units is just going to get better and better. So with that, I am actually going to hand off the mic to Kenneth. He's the first of several executive directors who are going to share highlights from operating sites and really give us all an opportunity to hear more about the team's great work and what's going on in each of those different locations. So thanks, Kenneth.
Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everybody. To Liz's point, I really want to shout out my teams here in New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana. This work would not be possible without every last one of them. And so we had a slow start to the year, but we are right where we want to be. And so super excited about their hard work getting us there. We have completed 50 homes out of our 75. We have filled our MSY for the 2022-2023 grant year. And so that is huge with our AmeriCorps members. We've hosted over 2,000 volunteer instances, which we're super excited about, even though we've had a slow summer. And by the end of this month, as Liz has alluded to, we would have seen the completion of 7 new builds under the OH team. And so Alyssa, Tommy, Katie, all of them, and all of our PLs who rushed to get that done. We strengthened relationships with Energy New Orleans here, and they are providing us with almost monthly virtual volunteer opportunities. And so that is helping us. But one of the biggest things that I'm super excited about is recently we were awarded $425,000 from the city of New Orleans to really do a health and safety program for next year. And so we're just doing a lot of great things here in New Orleans, and I'm super excited and just want to say thank you to all of our team members here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Great job, New Orleans. Next, I believe we have Pamela to talk about Florida.
Hello, everybody. Pamela Kidwell here today I'm in Panama City, and I'm very, very proud of my small but mighty team. We started out with a small anticipation of having homes to be completed in Bay County, but then we had a little storm called Hurricane Ian that hit and ran through a large path of Florida. We're celebrating 200 homes completed in Bay County since Hurricane Michael. So that sort of kind of hits the magic 200 mark for us for Hurricane Michael. But we're also working on homes with Hurricane Michael and Ian at the same time. And this year we have 100 homes completed mainly for Hurricane Ian. We have thus far been awarded $2 million for Hurricane Ian work with additional funding in the slot to give to us for new houses, new work. And we've finally completed our 4 new builds from Panama City for this, and that was using CDBG money. We also gained a contract for Bay County in creating OR work for homes that were damaged by Hurricane Michael through the county. To give a little bit of a quick update for Hurricane Idalia, we had our team, Angelina and Hunter, on the ground. They visited Taylor, Lafayette, and Dixie. We also had a construction crew of 8 in the area, mainly in Perry, tarping homes and visiting with residents. So we distributed 165 crisis cleanup flyers on one team and 100 on the other team, 84 flyers promoting our videos, and we also distributed 70 hurricane preparedness guides as a way to let them know who we were. We're still working in those areas, and we have another team hitting the ground tomorrow. So that's a quick overview for Panama City and Florida, and go team.
Go team indeed. Fantastic. Nice work, Pamela and team. Bruce, would you lead us through the Houston update, please?
It's me instead, I believe. So I'm giving the Houston update on behalf of Thomas, not to Bruce, not to scare you. I've got it. So last month marked the 6-year anniversary of Hurricane Harvey, and since SVP started our work in the Houston area, we've returned almost 430 families home. And this year specifically, the team has completed 40 out of the 56 homes that they anticipate building, and the team is, anticipates that they're going to exceed that completed goal this year, which is fabulous to see. Something I wanted to highlight was that there's a municipality about an hour outside of Houston called Missouri City. We completed 3 projects in partnership with them last year. But this year we've completed 2 so far, and the team expects to do probably between 8 and 10 in total by the end of this year. And the reason that this is important because it really shows that the impact that the team is having, and Houston is recognized outside of Houston and other areas of Texas. And through this partnership, SVP was sought out to be kind of a go-to partner contract for that municipality. The Houston team is consistently providing best-in-class volunteer experience. Their year-to-date net promoter score is 95%. And for those who don't know, that's out of a scale of 100. And for this entire past quarter, they've been 90% or above. So awesome, awesome experience that they're providing their volunteers there locally. And I want to take a moment to read a volunteer quote from a recent DeWalt volunteer to kind of help explain that experience. So they said, volunteering with SVP Houston was one of the most rewarding experiences my team and I could have had. It was very valuable to be able to work so closely with my teammates in a different working environment while being able to give back to our community. The whole SVP Houston team was very helpful and made us confident in what we were doing. Without them, it wouldn't have been successful. So keep it up, Houston team. Love that. And then next, the team has established a small partner program where the team is working with local nonprofits that also provide home repairs to disaster survivors to support them in particular construction material in-kind needs that they might have to meet their mission. And lastly, I just want to acknowledge that the team culture and cohesiveness in Houston is just strong and solid. We've got a solid, passionate group of focused individuals in Houston, and I'm glad to be able to play a small part in that. So thanks.
Fantastic, Dulcie. Thank you so much. Congrats, Houston team. Amazing. Next up, we have Andy to lead us through Bahamas updates.
Hey, everyone. As of last Friday, we recognized the passing of 4 years since Hurricane Dorian, and we had really kind of a sobering moment this week, and we toured with the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Grand Bahama to lay wreaths at different memorials throughout the island and interact with some of the families who had lost loved ones during this catastrophic storm. So it was a very sobering reminder of why we do the work, why we serve these communities, because there's such a deep loss. But transitioning kind of in a more positive light from the devastation of Dorian 4 years ago, one of the things that is visible is that there's less damage and destruction each year. In year 4, we've completed 77 of our 90 home repairs. We've served over 625 families in the last 4 years since Hurricane Dorian kicked off, which is a massive amount of impact in a place where the support is greatly needed and appreciated. One of the unique things that we've been able to accomplish this year is we've partnered with the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, which is the HUD equivalent for the Bahamas, and have achieved some VAT, which is the value added tax. We get tax-free materials for our operation, which has resulted in over $50,000 in savings in our rebuilding program in year 4, which is a huge win for us in our ability to create more impact as funding kind of tightens. Another big win is that finally in year 4, the government of the Bahamas has recognized the value that SBP has given to them and has partnered with another foundation locally to kick in some additional funds to keep us here on the ground and rebuilding past our originally slated sunset in November. So we have another $500,000. We're finalizing contracts. Some of that will be cash, some of that will be materials, to keep serving some of the families that have been waiting for so long.
Awesome, Andy. Thank you so much for your update. I very much appreciate it. John O'Donnell, if you will give us an update for Southwest Louisiana, please.
Yeah, I'd love to. So first, a shout out to our team, Small But Mighty, Brian Dubert and Karesha Brooks. All of this wouldn't be possible without their hard work on the construction side of things. Last month, we not celebrated, but we recognized the anniversary, the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Laura. And this month, we will recognize the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Delta. And so those two things definitely need to be said out loud, because it has been 3 years since back-to-back strikes here in Southwest Louisiana, and we're still dealing with a lot of things from that fallout. We're very proud to have completed 59 of our goal of 60 homes. We're tracking that by the time we sunset our construction operation in October, we will have completed homes for 70 families, and that's 15 homes over what our annual goal was, and doing so in a shorter time frame than we thought. With our funding already redlined, we've achieved this by stretching our original budget in 2 major ways. One, by creating a coalition of other NGOs. We were able to utilize skilled volunteer labor through Mennonite Disaster Service. These are Mennonite construction professionals who travel to disaster-impacted areas to help rebuild. And by partnering with them, we were able to use their labor, and they were able to use our materials and project management, resulting in a total savings of $769,423 that would have otherwise been budgeted to pay for contract labor. We've also participated in and scored contracts through the City of Lake Charles HRP program, which stands for Housing Rehabilitation and Recovery. As a contractor, we were able to help those in need of SBP services while also generating a 32% margin, grossing a 32% margin on average per job, which thus helped us replenish some of our unrestricted funds. Both of these things allowed us to be not just good stewards of donor dollars, but also stretch our resources to help as many people as we could. And we're very proud of these successes. But now I'm going to pivot and tap everyone in the heart a little bit. As I mentioned, we're sunsetting. As of October, Southwest Louisiana will no longer have an SBP build site. Unfortunately, local funding for housing has dried up, and we're unable to identify our net national or regional funding to continue. But that does not mean that the job here is done. There are still thousands of families in need with blue tarps 3 years after experiencing 5 natural disasters, including 2 major hurricanes in 8 months. So this is a photo of a woman named Miss Birdie. She lives in a small home with her 2 sons. Her 2 sons lost their own homes during Hurricanes Laura and Delta. She's given us permission to use her photo, but she's not an SBP client, and she will not be an SBP client. We're very proud to have stretched our funds as far as we did so that we could stay as long as we could. And we're the last rebuilding organization left in Southwest Louisiana, but we can't stay any longer in a build capacity. And we've spent the last 3 weeks telling people like Miss Birdie that their last option is leaving. We all just talked a lot about numbers, and that's great. We're very proud of those numbers, but let's take a second and ground those numbers in meaning. Numbers are not the product that we produce at SPP. The product that we produce is an improved quality of life for people in need after disaster. And some of those people are in the darkest times of their life. People like Miss Birdie. On a coffee break with Zach a while back, we discussed the topic of disaster capitalism. And disaster capitalism basically means that help goes where the money and attention is. And oftentimes other storms and market factors beyond our control dictate who and how many people we're able to help. Rural communities and communities impacted by smaller scale disasters make up the majority of people impacted by natural disaster, but they also take the brunt of the hurt from the failure of that broken systemic methodology. And that means we leave a lot of people behind to fall through the cracks. So this may be the last time that I get to speak on an all-team call, and I want to use it as a moment to plead with y'all that are remaining in this space. And I know I'm echoing what Zach talked about earlier in the beginning of the call. Be change architects. I don't know what the solution here is, but keep searching until you find it. Work together to change the way the system works and make sure that the Miss Birdies of the world aren't failed by it. It's been an absolute honor working with all of you, and thank you for the resources that SPP has provided to help rebuild this community. Please don't forget about Southwest Louisiana, and please don't forget about communities like ours.
John, thank you so much for the update and the heartfelt note to the team. Certainly appreciate all of your hard work and the team in Southwest Louisiana. Just really inspirational. Thank you. And I realized that I actually missed Edgardo. I apologize. Let me get back. Edgardo from Puerto Rico, your updates, please.
Thank you, Kyle. Not fair putting me after John. Shout out to John and his team. I think amazing work done in Southwest Louisiana. All right, Team Puerto Rico, we're very proud. This year, we already have completed 44 of our 58 homes that we set for our goals. We also completed our agreement with Habitat for Humanity, which has been one of our main funders for the last few years. And we successfully did more homes than we originally thought with their funding. So very proud of all the team here. In July, we commemorated our 5th year anniversary here of operations and our 300 completion. We had a great event, also honoring the late Bob Jacks, and his family came, and we had an opportunity to meet with all the team and a lot of municipal and leaders. I want to thank the advice team in particular for coming to the island and helping us successfully give a training around 34 municipal leaders. Not only we trained them in successful housing practices, but out of that training, we created a huge network with a lot of different municipalities that we have been following up. And me personally and Jomari, who's our client service manager, have met with a lot of these mayors and expressing very high interest in our opportunity housing program. So we're confident that we're going to be able to start that in Q4 finally. So far this year, we have hosted more than 2,300 volunteer instances. And I'm just very proud of my team for navigating volunteer experience and their work through this particular hot summer. And in the picture below, you can see the initiatives our team took during this hot temperatures, creating these oases for volunteers and members alike. So thank you all for taking that initiative and making sure that volunteers are safe, in particular this extreme heat. So yeah, I think, and also shout out to the volunteer department. We finally got a new volunteer manager, and just in July, we exceeded $8,000 in volunteer donations only, which is a result of the high quality volunteer experience given by our members. So thank you.
Fantastic, Edgardo. Thank you so much, and great work, Puerto Rico team. All right, and Edgardo, you mentioned the advise team, so let's bring on Reese and JR to give us some advise updates, please.
All right, great. Thank you, Kyle. So we have a brand new team member. That's Miss Sherry Risk out of West Virginia. She's a first-round draft pick out of West Virginia. Been trying to get her on our team for a long time, and she's jumped in here and is just really carrying on a heck of a load. Our current advisory clients list you can see up here. We continue engaging weekly and more often than that with the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resilience. Kentucky Housing Corporation, we're continuing going back and forth toward working with them and the FAHI folks up there. We just completed a mission in Volusia County, Florida, And we're continuing to work the Puerto Rico subrecipient agreement. That is an exercise in bureaucracy. I'd like to thank everybody in the headquarters who's helping with that, as well as Gardo and everybody else who's trying to work through. We're very close on this, and we just got to get it to the end. We've had a series of AARP disaster resilience symposiums that we've completed. We recently came out of New Mexico, and prior to that, we were in Alabama. And spotlighting Kentucky a little bit, let me just say this. We're going to try to build systems for those that are using taxpayer dollars that will help everyone. And I appreciate John's heartfelt talk earlier. Government's got to get this thing right. And on the advised team, one of the things that we're pushing hard in Kentucky is getting it right. And you can see that we've already contracted with the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky, LKLP, Community Action Council. We're contracted with KHC and with FAHI. We're building systems to support recovery, and we're building implementation plans and policies. A couple of things that we've got upcoming, we're going to be doing, we continue our monthly webinars on CDBGDR. We'll have one here next Wednesday on grant administration. We are going to, led by the great Sherry Risk, go into North Carolina and teach a compliance course. One of the things that government officials are looking at us for is tell us how to ensure that we're compliant with all the different various bureaucratic federal cross-cutting rules and regulations. And so we'll do that. In addition to that, Maria Gonzalez is going to lead a great team up there and do multiple iterations of disaster case management, which we're really excited about. We think that's going to be a wonderful training event. We continue on with AARP, My People. And what we're going to do there is we're going to both California, Sherry's going to take that mission, and Joe Boys, the world traveler, is going to take on the Puerto Rico mission, in which we're going to conduct more disaster resilience symposiums. And I think these are worthwhile. We're talking to wide audiences about how do we prepare, how do we respond, how do we recover, how do we mitigate, and these are important deals. In addition to that, we'll go back to Kentucky again in October with the Kentucky Housing Corporation and continue to work through all the nuances of building their policy and their implementation plan. In November, we will run a mitigation practitioner course, which is going to be wonderful. We've already had meetings on that as early as today to talk about what that's going to look like. And I think it's going to be a brilliant course, and we're going to put a lot of people into the mitigation framework with that. In December, we will roll out something that's brand new. We're calling it the Disaster Housing Course. It's had multiple names. It's been called the Construction Management Course. It's been called this. It's been called that. But we're going to roll this out. This will be a for-profit cost center for us, in which we will charge people to come and listen to us talk. In this disaster housing course, we are going to place a great deal of emphasis on the meat of rebuilding for people. And that meat of rebuilding for people begins with, can I do an adequate damage assessment? And then from that damage assessment, how do I turn that into an adequate scope of work? And then how do I get that scope of work in the hands of somebody that can do it? And then subsequent to that, how do I assign or bid out systems to people? So this is a systems course on disaster housing. I'm really excited about it. We expect to roll that out in December. And then in February, presupposing, of course, that our Puerto Rico SRA comes to fruition, we will hold the finance leader course either in Savannah or New Orleans. We're still debating that. With that, I'm rounds complete here, and I'll pass to Reese for the RAF update.
Thank you, JR, and appreciate the time or any opportunity to spend some time with y'all. I want to highlight just two things JR mentioned there. First, with NCORE and the training on compliance, you can't overstate the value of this. This is an $800 million grantee who's failed to deliver results for clients for nearly 5 years now. They fired all their consultants and taken over operations themselves. What they realized is that as a coastal state, they're a constant target for hurricanes. Indeed, they're already worried about Tropical Storm Lee right now and whether it might affect North Carolina. Given that they've run off all the contractors and decided they are going to become a resilience organization and construction and building for the state and whatever disasters it will endure in the future, The first thing they need to do as an organization, so to speak, is to learn to read. They need to understand what federal regulation allows them to do with these resources and how to read the guidance that comes in a federal register and in policy notice. And I think you can't overstate the influential power there is in teaching an $800 million organization how to read and what it is capable of potentially doing for disaster survivors and communities that are at risk as it receives even more resilience money. So kudos to JR and Sherry and Hannah and a whole bunch of other people who dived in deep with folks at NCORE and built a ton of trust and really have them, again, asking us to teach them to read. The second thing is this housing course that JR has delivered. We'll see what the upside is, and I think it's going to be great. But I think what I would say here is that around the country, we've watched as so many well-intentioned recovery agencies have articulated clearly the outcomes that they wanted and then failed to translate that into action. Real construction that delivers real progress and results for people. The notion behind JR's housing course is that translation. How do you go from, I want to repair 1,000 homes in the first year to an actual construction mechanism that can stand that up and bring the construction capacity to deliver it. So I think it is really important that it will be a serious revenue driver, but also that it's going to translate a critical part of our industry that often fails. And when it does fail, it hurts people. With that, let me shift quickly to the Recovery Acceleration Fund. I'm excited to update that the state of Florida has included reimbursement and the conditions we need to operate a Recovery Acceleration Fund in its action, excuse me, in its action plan to HUD, and they expect to have approval from that in late October, early November. Volusia County, Florida also included the same conditions in their action plan. They're completing the public comment period now and will submit to HUD once the county council approves the action plan as written. And then in Kentucky, as JR mentioned, we're advising on the action plan and contracted to help with the implementation policy and et cetera. We expect their reimbursement to be included in the final action plan. And so we're starting to work with FAHI and KHC and other local partners who potentially already have lending authority to understand the best way to implement RAF in Kentucky. But we're going really from the opportunity in Louisiana, which has been a really positive test pilot market, to a couple, 3 different opportunities in 2 states coming here into the fall and early 2024. So we're thrilled about that. And look forward to updates on all this stuff in the future. And thanks again, JR, for that really thorough advice. Awesome.
Reese, thank you. And I hate to put you on the spot, but I want to put you on the spot. Could you, for the team members that just joined our organization, staff and AmeriCorps, could you give just a very high-level overview of what RAF is and why it's so important?
Absolutely. So there's sort of some things about disasters aren't predictable. How strong will the hurricane winds be? What exact community will it make landfall? But some things about disasters are predictable. Once Congress appropriates money, there's a really formulaic way that that money flows down to state governments or local governments. And then there's a pre-state and predictable way in which those communities build out programs. The long story short is that the time that takes is somewhere between 2 and 3 years between the time a disaster event happens and federal taxpayer resources actually make it to individual survivors, even the first survivors who start to receive that assistance. So for an example, folks impacted by Hurricane Ian, it's almost a year later, they're just submitting an action plan to HUD. It'll take another few months to approve that. They'll start a program, hire contractors, write rules. Eventually, sometime next year, around 2 years later, assistance will start making it to individual survivors. But SBP found a few years ago, a few communities that were using some of their HUD money to reimburse repair expenses for qualified homeowners who had made repairs out of pocket right after the disaster. The problem with that is super cool. The problem with that is that it really only works for people who could self-finance repairs. If you have savings or a 401k you can borrow from, then it works for you. But if you're a low-income homeowner, maybe you inherited your house through succession, you don't have a lot of cash available, you're not bankable by traditional standards, you need to have your home rebuilt, but you don't have any cash resources to call on. What we've worked out in Louisiana and now in Florida and soon in Kentucky, is a framework where SBP can recruit charitable funding and traditional investment to go out and identify qualified homeowners, people who we know these programs are going to serve because of that staid and predictable way that they often roll out. There are federal requirements about who these monies are intended and in fact must serve. HUD's been even more specific in recent years about the geographies where the money's going to have to be spent. And so for SBP, the idea is really, we know who's going to qualify for this because we've been qualifying them for these services for 17 years. What we have a real opportunity to do now is go and qualify them today and lend them money that we have available and work with the state of Florida or the county of Volusia or those partners I mentioned in Kentucky to ensure that when HUD dollars do make it to the communities, we can reimburse those loans. In this way, we are able to extend the benefit of reimbursement, not just to those who can self-finance the repairs, but to anyone that can qualify for SBP services, which would be exclusively people who own their home, they don't own other homes, they make below 80% of area median income, often far below that. In Louisiana, I think the average age is 67 and somewhere near 80% of the homeowners served are African American. So we're really thrilled with the potential for RAP and its application in the many impacted communities in Florida. But even more so to kind of prove the point in a way that other communities will willingly and quickly adopt this early after disasters, so that SBP can, expand the service and provide the benefit in newly impacted markets like those affected by the Dahlia or those hopefully that won't be affected by the different case they like. I don't know, Kyle, if that does it or not, but that's
Absolutely.
what that's all about.
Absolutely. Reese, thank you. Really helpful context and explanation of the RAF program and why it's so important. So thank you for that. JR, thank you for your update as well. So Anya, I believe you are next to lead us through disaster response updates.
Kyle, thank you. For those I haven't met, I'm Anya Conlon. I'm our Chief of Staff. I have the privilege of, in place of Ryan Morgan, who is traveling, and as we are in the peak of disaster season, just sharing a bit of an update with respect to our latest disaster response efforts to some of the recent disasters we saw across the month of August. And importantly, lift up some of the really great work many of the folks on this call have been doing and time invested to make sure that communities that have now been recently impacted have a clear path to recovery. So starting here on the left is the wildfires in Hawaii. As many of y'all, I'm sure, heard, there were wildfires that caused pretty tremendous devastation on the island of Maui, particularly the town of Lahaina. And in response, our team pivoted quickly. We've been connecting with local groups on the ground to distribute our recovery resources directly to survivors, as well as seeking to understand how it is that we can support what'll be a very important temporary housing need and then future long-term rebuilding goals. Thanks to some really great work from our development team here, we have received substantial support from Jefferies, as well as numerous individual donors. And with that, we're going to be able to launch our disaster assistance program in Hawaii, as well as potentially support some of the long-term rebuilding work when the time is right. And so in the weeks ahead, Claire Balsley, who is our director of the disaster assistance program, will be on Maui next week. And she's going to provide trainings in partnership with the Hawaii Community Assets. That's a nonprofit organization founded by Native Hawaiians that provides resources rooted in Hawaiian culture and values, and it helps Native Hawaiians and island residents gain home and financial security. And so what they've done is they've set up remote office hubs in 3 different locations across the island, and they've invited us to join them and a few other NGOs to be present in those office spaces and provide trainings to the community and to the residents. And so Claire will conduct initial trainings. And then our goal here is to hire 1 or 2 local Hawaiians who can join the DAP team and continue to provide that training as well as FEMA appeal support across the community. And then Ryan Morgan, our director of disaster response, will be out on the island a couple weeks from now, and his goal will be to meet with partners, listen and learn about what the other needs are and how it is that SBP with our suite of initiatives and resources can best support the community in the recovery. And so big thanks to everyone on this call for really jumping into the response for Hawaii in a way that we know is so tremendously needed. Second, I want to talk about Hurricane Idalia. As again, I'm sure many of y'all know and some of you experienced on August 30th, which as I think we recognize is 18 years plus 1 day after Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Idalia impacted the Florida coast as well as regions all the way up through Georgia and South Carolina. It was a Category 3 storm when it made landfall on the west coast of Florida, and it caused pretty widespread flooding in both urban and rural communities from Florida to the Carolinas. And in response, the team has been connecting with local partners in BOEDS, distributing our recovery resources, hosting recovery one-on-one trainings, and really beginning the assessment process. With respect to trainings, a big shout out to Juliet, who I have been told has been an exceptionally effective presenter. Super important in these early days for survivors who are really staring into what does that recovery process look like. Importantly, and Pamela touched on this a little bit, but a big shout out to our team who's on the ground. Pamela and all, they were there through the storm and were on the ground immediately able to begin that assessment process so we could understand where the greatest impact is and where we can support. They've already begun tarping roofs where there is need, and we're continuing sort of that concentric circles outwards to find those communities that may not be getting the help that they need. Ryan will be on the ground in Georgia next week to do some of that assessment process and focus in on some of those rural communities that we're understanding have distinct need, but it doesn't seem as though they're getting much of that support. And our disaster support team, led by Juliet, is on standby to deploy in the event that we determine there to be a need. We will be sure to keep this team updated as our response develops. But just while I have your time and attention today, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to everyone who's doing this work among all the rest of the work that we're doing. Again, we're in the middle of storm season, and so we're ready and aware that there may be more storms. But a big thank you to this team and all the work we've done so far. With that, Kyle, I'll hand it back to you.
Fantastic. Thanks for the update, Anya. All right, so next, want to celebrate new staff members. So with that, Courtney Matthews, our HR generalist, would you please introduce our new team members on staff?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, team. I'm going to have our new hires introduce themselves. And as Liz mentioned earlier, September is National Preparedness Month. And so to highlight that, I have asked the new staff members to answer a question for me in their introductions as they introduce themselves. And the question is, not counting your phone, food, or water, what would be the one item that you would bring with you if you had to evacuate for the storm or for a storm? So Sam, if you could take it away for us.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Sam Zivin. I'm the RAF case manager. And I think not really an item, but I'd love to have my family dog with me for an evacuation.
Thank you. Ava is not in. She's out today. So Carlin, you're next.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Carlene. I am the news of part of the Salesforce admin team next to Brittany. So we work a little bit behind the scenes of what happened with our database. I'm currently living in Pennsylvania. I live 15 minutes from the Philly airport, so very, very close to the city. One of the items that if I had to pick one item, I would say my Nintendo, because it's one of the items that me and my son use constantly. So I will make sure that I have Mario and Kirby and Zelda with me on a storm. That would be awesome. So it's nice to meet you, everyone, if I haven't met you yet. So.
Thank you. Tosha,
Hi, everyone. I'm Tosha Threed. I'm actually a part of the DAP team. My area that I process appeals for is Florida, and also I'll be doing Maui as well. I'm located in Columbia, South Carolina. The one thing I would take with me, this may be cheating, but I would take my purse because I have everything that I need in there. So yeah, I'll take my purse. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure if Juliet is on the call. She may be.
I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Juliet Vibert. I am the Disaster Corps Manager living in New Orleans, located at the New Orleans operating site. I think the first thing that popped in my brain when I read the question was my longboard, because that would probably help me keep my sanity while not at home. So that's the item that I would take.
Madeline.
I'm here. Hello, everybody. I am Madeline Figueroa Beniquez. I am the volunteer manager in Puerto Rico. And when I thought about your question, Courtney, I was like, I did like what was it Tosha said, her purse. I was like, oh, that's a good one. But I would choose a book because I am an avid reader and I would need something to entertain myself. Besides my husband, of course.
We can't forget about the husband.
We can't
or the partner.
Forget. All right. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Madeline. And awesome work so far. I was listening to Edgardo's update. Amazing. We are so happy to have you. All right, Sherry.
Hi, I'm Sherry Risk. I'm in Charleston, West Virginia. Our disasters are flooding, flash flooding. So I thought about a lot of things, but I thought we actually have a whitewater raft. I would take that because we live near the river and the flooding happens really quickly. So I thought that would be good.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Wright. I'm the new Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for SBP. I live in Brooklyn, but I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I was jealous to hear JR say he did a training in New Mexico. Next time, bring me. I think I would bring, I have a folder of handwritten recipes from my grandmother and my grandfather that are precious to me. So I would bring those and my birth certificate.
My name is Carissa McDonald. I'm a grant writer and I'm based in Oregon on the coast. And in the event of a storm, I would probably be boring and bring my Kindle. So I would have something to do and to distract myself.
That works. It's just like Madeline, but it's electronic, right? Isn't that, did I get that right? I think
yeah, and you can have as many books as you want on there. So I'd never be bored.
All right.
Yeah, I thought of that, but then I said, how about if there's no electricity, right? Then I said, no, I just need a book.
That's smart. I didn't think about that.
Frank, I know you just started literally this morning, and I think I emailed you this morning, so I hope that you're ready.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Harrell. I'm the maintenance specialist over here at SBP, Lower 9 units. And one thing I would bring, maybe my fishing pole. I love fishing. And it's a therapy for me, so it would be a fishing pole.
Yes, sorry, I thought I was on mute, but you got me with that. I love fishing from when my dad used to take me when I was younger. I love it. All right, well, thank you guys and welcome to SBP. And Andrea, all you.
Thanks so much, Courtney. To our AmeriCorps members, our new AmeriCorps members, I'm not going to have each of you introduce yourselves. Unfortunately, we just don't have the time for that. So I'm going to be doing it. I do apologize in advance if I misread anyone or mispronounce anyone's name. So starting in New Orleans, so these are all the new members who started since our last meeting in May. We have a bunch of new Disaster Corps project leads: Morgan Dunn, Joshua Dingman, Alexis Webster, Cami Alexander, and Elizabeth Wittenberg. We have a bunch of new project leads. We have Jen Barker. We have Bela Hermetiuk Turillo, Tavia Conrad, Abby Kurtzkemp, and Jordan Fields. We have a new RAFT client service coordinator, Tara Angelello. We have a supply and logistics coordinator, John Faust, and a volunteer coordinator, Lane Carter. In Puerto Rico, there's always a big list in Puerto Rico. We have a couple of new client service coordinators, Laura Sanchez Forero and Abby Marie Rivera. Abby Marie's in her 3rd term with SVP. We have a bunch of new project leads. We have Myra Riviera Nieves, Destiny Riviera, Melanie Cruz Delgado, Alicia Salas, Jose Santiago, and Emily Diaz. Jose and Emily are in their 2nd term with SVP. We have 2 new supply and logistics coordinators. We have Leonardo Riviera Alonso and Sarai Guzman. Sarai is in her 3rd term with SVP. And then we have 2 returning members who are volunteer coordinators. We have Jorge Latorre in his 4th term and Sam Cires in his 2nd term. We also have 2 DAP Puerto Rico members, Patrick Trinidad and Jerome Espinosa. In Houston, we have a number of new members. We have Michaela Gaston as a project lead. We have 2 new Disaster Corps project leads, Cheyenne Hewitt and German Banda. We have a new volunteer coordinator, Ethan Perryman, a client service coordinator, Cameron Scott, a construction coordinator, Matthew Banzer, and a Disaster Corps project lead, Aaron Bryant. We have several new placement site members. For those of you who are not aware, SVP places AmeriCorps members at different placement sites, other nonprofits, to increase capacity to help recover after storms. We have 2 placement site members at the Habitat for Humanity in Arcadia, Florida, Roberto Flores, a construction coordinator, and Shanesia Sanders, a project lead. And then finally, in Winter Garden in Port Charlotte, Florida, we have Wendy Rainey, a volunteer coordinator. Congratulations, and thank you all for joining SVP. We are so happy to have all of you. You really, really help increase our capacity and help us bring more people home.
Yay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrea, and welcome new AmeriCorps members and staff members. So next up, it's me. I wanted to give HR updates and forecast some information for you. So first is our upcoming holidays. We have 3 in November. Veterans Day, November 10th, Thanksgiving, November 23rd, and Native American Heritage Day, November 24th. So those are all team members. We have all team members have those days off. And then some upcoming events, initiatives, and opportunities for you. So on Monday, I'm sorry, I forgot to put this on the list. For those of you who are in New Orleans, the SB Perimeter ride conclusion with Jim Feeney, who has rode the perimeter of the United States on a bicycle, he's finishing his tour, and he's going to be finishing at our headquarters in town. So for anyone who is in the Louisiana, New Orleans area, please, if you haven't RSVP'd, do so with Lily Hannigan, but would love to see everyone out there. So please come if you're able to. Second is on Monday, it's 9/11, September 11th, which is the National Day of Service and Remembrance. This is across the country, a National Day of Service for AmeriCorps. Same with Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Those are 2 really, really, well, important days, but important days also for service and for national service, excuse me. So I would invite all of you at 8:30. There is a program that team members at SVP, a group of people have worked really hard on creating. So it's from our team members for our team members. And we're going to about an hour and a half lead through an agenda program that is really impactful. So for staff members in particular, I encourage you to join. AmeriCorps members do have to join, but for our staff, please join on Monday, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Liz and Zach mentioned a little bit about we're rolling out our strategic plan and starting our 2024 planning. So that's budget. That's what our goals are going to be in 2024. So stay tuned for more information. And then Reese also mentioned RAF updates, but particularly in Florida, where we are hiring for a bunch of new RAF positions with SPP, so we can get that program up and running as quickly and as smoothly as possible. And then the last couple things, some development opportunities. Preparedness Month, as Liz mentioned, is this month in September. So the preparedness materials that and trainings that we'll be offering, this is stuff that is going to help you be personally prepared for yourself and your family, but it also is a really good insight into how SBP talks about preparedness to make sure that homeowners before and after storms are taken care of. So I would just encourage you, not just for yourself and being prepared, but just to know what we're talking about, what we're educating homeowners on. Engage in those activities. I know Tessa sent out a couple invites for 2 activities. I think today or yesterday is when she sent that out. And then Courtney also sent out an email for some engagement activities. So please make sure you interact with those. And then last but not least is our next Lunch and Learn session is October 6th, led by Kristen Monteleone. And that is the second part 2 of Excel with Excellence. So we got kind of the basics, the intro crash course in Excel 101. Now it's the master's course. So I would invite everyone to attend. It's going to be enthralling. So with that, and to close us out, our shout outs. So if you're new to the team, this is how shout outs work. Anyone can come off of mute and shout out a team member that is really doing a great job living our values. You want to celebrate a success or a win that they've done, really anything to celebrate another team member. You can also type it in the chat. So we're going to kick it off, and it is kind of a free-for-all. So if you have someone in mind, go ahead and take yourself off mute and shout that person out.
From Southwest. Oh, sorry, I'm in the same room as John. From Southwest Louisiana, our AmeriCorps, Karesha. She stayed on through the transition of losing our client services team. Really excelled and showed her value during the coalition deployment, handling stuff way above and beyond what a construction coordinator normally would. And has really just excelled in all facets, absorbed information like a sponge, and been an absolutely critical part of our team and being able to succeed and close out this program on the high notes that we are. So good shout out to Karesha there.
Big shout out to Courtney, Brandon, Renette, and April, and Jen Beaver for supporting on the committee for the 9/11 Day of Remembrance and Service. Really appreciate y'all's work.
Hey guys, this is April. Just wanted to shout out really the volunteer operating sites. Anyone that has volunteers coming in, it's been quite a doozy of a summer, and I know we've had to pivot some just dealing with the heat volunteers, but thank you guys for building relationships on the front end, giving a really great volunteer experience, and continuing to maintain those relationships.
Hey, this is Joe. I want to give a shout out to Angela for the great work she did coordinating some trainings that we did up in Northern California a few weeks ago. Thanks, Angela.
Yeah, I want to take a second and shout out Dulcie, who in the absence of our client services team in Southwest Louisiana has really stepped up in a big way to help us out in every way that you could imagine, including just being a sounding board for frustration. So thanks, Dulcie, for all of that.
Want to take a second to shout out Juliet Vibert, who's heading up the AmeriCorps response side. I think jumping into a new role from AmeriCorps to staff has certain challenges involved, but I have been continually impressed by Juliet, both through the deployment to Guam and now as she's prepping teams for potential deployment in the face of other hurricanes that are happening currently.
Fantastic. And if y'all haven't looked at the chats, there is a lot of shout outs in the chat. So please make sure to check those out too. And as a reminder, shout outs don't have to stop here. If you remember somebody that you want to shout out, please send an email out. Shout that person out. Tell us how they have really embodied SBP values or something that you really want to celebrate with them. So with that, I think we are going to conclude. I really appreciate everybody who attended, everyone who presented today. Thank you for your time. Have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, a great Friday, and a happy weekend. And for those that are going to be in New Orleans for Jim Feeney's return, I will see you on Saturday. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.